Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Walker with the Hampton City Manager's Office. Welcome to the third in a series of neighborhood meetings hosted by the mayor and members of the Hampton City Council. In August of last year, Council held a goal-setting session. Using your suggestions from the first neighborhood meetings and from this past summer's public forums, the Council developed a list of over 60 items to be addressed in 1983. Those items, the city's goals and objectives, were handed out at the neighborhood meetings in November, and they were also mailed to all Hampton residents with their Virginia state income tax forms. Tonight we have for you a 6-month progress report on activities that have taken place to date in order to accomplish these objectives. While we have printed copies available for handout, we would like to take a few minutes of your time tonight to highlight some of the projects undertaken so far this year. With me are 3 of Hampton's top-level managers. To my right is George Wallace. George is Assistant City Manager for Community Services. George, would you tell us which departments you supervise?
Liz, in the Community Services Division, we have police, fire, civil preparedness, recreation, library, BPI Extension Service, social services, developmental programs, health, court services, conventions and tourism, and finally the Coliseum.
Thank you, George. To my immediate left is Horace Copeland. Horace is Assistant City Manager for Community Development. Horace, tell us about community development.
Elizabeth, the Community Development Division is concerned primarily with the physical development of the community. The departments are planning, development, zoning, building, public works, parks, and housing rehabilitation.
Thank you, Horace. To Horace's left is Michael Monteith. Mike is Director of Support Services for the city. Mike, what is included in support services?
Well, there's 9 divisions in the administrative group. They are the assessment office, data processing, finance, property maintenance in the central garage, risk management, purchasing, the central warehouse, and finally the personnel department.
Thank you, Michael. One of Council's goals is to increase citizen communication. In addition to the neighborhood meetings, which I mentioned earlier, Michael will discuss some of the other activities taking place in communications.
You mentioned that copies of the goals and objectives were mailed to residents with state income tax forms. In addition, the city mailed an information flyer to all Hampton businesses enclosed in the regular annual application for business licenses. We're looking at all regular mailings to citizens as opportunities for community information on current activities. We have advertised in the local papers and on cable TV the availability of direct mailings of city council agendas. Agendas are mailed to all media representatives and to 3 cable television stations. I'm pleased to report on another communication project. The Hampton Newport News League of Women Voters has agreed to write and publish a citizen guide to Hampton city government. This should be available in April. One of the more exciting areas of communication with which we worked this past winter has been with cable TV. Hampton Institute's Mass Media Department is now broadcasting on Cable Channel 10 a series of 5-minute informative local government interviews for their 5 o'clock news program. We have at least 1 interview a week scheduled through the end of April. Also with Hampton Institute, we are working on a 20-minute special program on Hampton's refuse-fired steam plant operation. And another special is scheduled for September on the city's Community Development Block Grant program. Many of our citizens have expressed an interest in cable television coverage on city council meetings. We are negotiating with Warner Cable for this purpose, and Warner has agreed to install the necessary cable work. We are still looking for ways to provide trained cameramen and technicians to televise the council meetings. We're looking at hopefully using interns from Hampton Institute for this purpose. And this is in line with another of council's goals, which deals with finding new ways to make our workforce more effective. The greater use of volunteers is one way we're attempting to achieve this goal. The city presently uses approximately 900 volunteers. These citizens who donate their time work in such areas as assisting the Parks and Recreation departments, working on special boards that help develop policy recommendations, serving as auxiliary police, and assisting the Social Services Department. Additionally, there are 400 Hamptonians who support our firefighting and rescue operations. Our goal is to increase our citizens' participation in their government.
Then if there are Hampton residents who are interested in volunteering for the city, they should call the city's personnel department?
That's correct.
Thank you. Volunteerism is one way to increase services in the city, especially new services, without increasing taxes. Another way, of course, is to increase the city's tax base by bringing in new industry and new businesses. Horace, can you give us some information on Council's goal to encourage economic development in Hampton?
Yes, Liz. The City Council emphasized its goal to encourage economic development by establishing an economic development fund with a beginning balance of over $1 million. Proceeds from city land sales, rentals, and certain special assessments will be credited to the fund to be used for economic development projects. Two projects that have been approved by Council and have received appropriations from the Economic Development Fund are the Pembroke Avenue Improvement Program and the Mercury Central Road Network Program.
Tell us about the one at a time, Pembroke Avenue first.
All right. The purpose of the Pembroke Avenue Improvement Program is to revitalize Pembroke Avenue as a safe, clean, attractive, viable location for business. Implementation of the program has been initiated with increased code enforcement, landscaping in selected areas, and demolition of 2 vacant drive-in theaters. An inventory of all vacant industrial land has been completed and discussions have been held with several property owners regarding their potential for developing small industrial sites.
I see. Well, what's included, what physical area is included in the Mercury Central area?
The Mercury Central Road Network Program is designed to stimulate land development in the city's central business district, as defined on this slide, the area adjacent to the intersection of Mercury Boulevard and Interstate 64. This project will complete the road network north of Coliseum Mall, thereby improving traffic flow on Mercury Boulevard, Cunningham Drive, and Executive Drive. Access to the commercial district from York County and Pocosin will be improved via Magruder Boulevard. This project represents a true public-private partnership. The land developers will repay the city for the cost of the road improvements over a period of 10 years.
Horace, are there any other major potential sites for development in Hampton?
Yes, another major resource for economic development is Hampton's waterfront. City staff is currently conducting an inventory of vacant land, property ownership, and development conditions on our Chesapeake Bay and Back River shorelines. Staff is also prepared to enter the last phase of the Hampton River Channel Relocation Study. The purpose of this project is to substantially increase the use of Hampton River for pleasure and commercial vessels.
How can the city go about attracting developers to come into this community?
The City Council's goal to improve the physical appearance of the city goes hand in hand with their goal for economic development. A visually pleasing community is not only an asset for those of us who live here, but it also creates an environment attractive to business investment. Comprehensive enforcement of the city's zoning and building codes along major thoroughfares and in selected areas of highest need has produced dramatic results in the past few months. For example, in a 2-month period, inspections on Pembroke Avenue, Armstead Avenue, Kecoughtan Road, and Mercury Boulevard resulted in the demolition of 15 structures, major repairs to 16 structures, the removal of 21 dilapidated signs, and commitments from more than 40 property owners to paint and repair structures when the weather permits. 2 landscaping nurseries have responded to the City Council's civic appearance goal by donating plant materials for use on major thoroughfares and other public areas.
Thank you, Horace. I'm sure if we had more time tonight, Horace would like to have told you about the city's very successful road resurfacing program, as well as perhaps about our new street sweeping program that begins in April. More information about that is in our handout. In addition to citywide physical improvements, those of us who live and work in Hampton daily might also be interested in the quality of life in Hampton. That also is one of Council's goals, and George is going to tell us about that. But George, before we talk about the quality of life in Hampton, can you tell us what that term means?
Quality of life, Liz, I guess, it's very much like beauty. It's relatively intangible. It's difficult to measure and it's difficult to define. And it means many things to many people. Generally, we think of the quality of life having 2 sides. The artistic side, and the side that deals with the more humane types of elements of our community in terms of services to the citizenry. But the thing that we'd like to focus most attention on in terms of quality of life is the project that we have that surrounds our library. Incidentally, I have a slide that presents the detail as I get into it. But the concept has been developed through a task force that included citizens that will bring about the recreation and redevelopment of the whole library area.
Let's show that slide now.
Okay. The first aspect of that development, that concept plan, is to have a demolition of the old Thorpe Junior High School. Immediately after that, we'll have an architectural study initiated to determine the feasibility of using the old Willis Elementary School as a new and an expanded main library. The third step of the plan calls for the relocation of the Hampton Center for the Arts and Humanities into the then vacated old Charles Taylor Library building, and they will share that space with the genealogy collection that's currently there. And the fourth dimension calls for the development of that area north of the Darling Stadium into housing area with private economic development interests. This whole planning concept involves itself in three of Council's main goals. One, the improvement of the library facilities, which falls under the quality of life. The second is to make and enhance economic development. And third, it certainly will improve the image of the community.
Well, thanks, George, for that information. It sounds like that project might be a long way off. There's a lot of elements to it.
Not really. As a matter of fact, the demolition aspect is imminent. It should take place within the next 30 to 60 days. We're currently looking at the elements that we need to hire the architect and get those plans drawn. And hopefully within the next couple of years, we'd like to have the whole plan well underway and towards fruition.
Well, good, George, and that means we'll see some site clearing at least by this summer, right? Good, thank you. And thank you, Horace and Mike. Thank you for joining us tonight. Several council members are in the audience and they're anxious to hear your comments. Please feel free to take with you tonight one of our handouts.